Hi everyone, and welcome back to another how-to video. Today we're doing a version of the Millionaire's Shortbread. So first we're going to have a go at making our own condensed milk. So you take one tin, about 400 grams of evaporated milk, put that into a pan, and you take 140 grams of caster sugar, and that goes into the milk. Now you keep it on a low heat, about 2 on an electric hob, and you want to just melt that sugar into the milk. Now normally you can just go and buy condensed milk, and that's completely fine, but if you want to give it a go at making it yourself, well, this is how we're going to do it. After about 5 minutes, the sugar should have dissolved nicely into the condensed milk. Now what we do at this point is we then crank it up to about 4, so keep it on a medium heat and just leave it. Don't stir it, don't touch it, just let it cook out. If you notice some bubbles forming, then just gently spoon them off and get rid of them. But we now just turn that up, and we can then move on to making the shortbread for the base. Right, so now onto the shortbread pastry. So you need 125 grams of butter. You need 50 grams of caster sugar and 180 grams of plain flour. It all just goes in. And then you just mix that up quite nicely until it forms your pastry. Now this could take a couple of minutes. After a few minutes this mix should start binding together, so we can stop that, and then what we want to do is fold it all together. Now don't worry too much if it is a little crumbly, because this will be perfect for the base of our Millionaire's Shortbread. So, there we go. Now, what we want to do is get yourself a dish. Probably want to cut that in about half. Now, I'm going to do a double layer, but you can just do a single layer, it's completely fine. So what we need to do is we need to roll this out onto a floured surface. I want to roll it out nice and thin, and then we can get it into our dish. Now don't worry so much if it does break up a little bit, because you can always just squish it down to form the shape, because we're going to leave it in that dish to make the Millionaires anyway. So let's scoop that up. So just press that into the base of your dish. Don't worry so much about going up the sides, because like I said, this is just the base. So just get it all nice and compact in the bottom. And like I said, this doesn't have to be neat, because this is going to be covered with caramel and chocolate anyway, so that's not an issue. Right, so that is my first layer. So I'm going to get that in the oven for about 5 to 10 minutes. Middle shelf, about 170. Just keep an eye on it though, because we don't want it to go too crispy. We want it to have you know, a nice golden consistency. So once the condensed milk has simmered for about half an hour, it will turn a nice sort of goldeny browny colour. And you might even notice it might start to puff up out the pan as if it's going to like evaporate all over your side. Before that happens, just take it off the heat and let it rest, and then what you want to do is a nice clean jug and just pour that mix into there and just let it cool down. Okay. Just put that somewhere nice to keep cold, and then, you know, when it's cooled a little bit, you can put it in the fridge just to help it away. and then it wants to go a nice sort of gloopy consistency, and then that'll be ready to turn into your caramel. Now the shortbreads are out the oven and they're cooling to one side, it's time to do the caramel. So you want to take 8 grams of butter, 80 grams of brown sugar, and just put them into a pan on a medium heat, about through on an electric oven. And now you want to get that butter and sugar melted nicely. After a couple of minutes, once the butter and the sugar have melted in nicely together, it's time to slowly add your condensed milk. So just pour it in gently, keep it on that low heat, and just gently stir the condensed milk into the butter and sugar mix. Now you don't want the mix too high on the hob, because it will burn the sugar, and then it will just crystallise the caramel and it will burn and it will taste horrible. So you keep it on the about 3 medium heat, and like I said, just slowly add in your condensed milk. Now don't worry too much if your condensed milk hasn't gone completely cold. At this stage it's going into a hot pan anyway, so that's fine. So add it slowly. You'll see the colour start to change into a nice light brown, and what you want to do is keep stirring, and then once you have all of your condensed milk in, then we'll just keep it on the heat for about 3 to 5 minutes, just so that it can heat up nicely and it can form a nice sticky gooey caramel. Yeah, so once that's done, we can then take it off the heat, put it to one side, and we can carry on with the rest of our shortbread. Right, now the caramel's done and off to one side cooling, it's time to go back to the shortbread base. Now this is where I turn the funk up a notch. I've got 2 layers of shortbread and I'm going to sandwich them with a layer of Nutella in the middle. So we'll get some Nutella and we just spread that on the first layer in our dish. Now don't worry so much about neat and accuracy at this stage now. It's all about just making sure that all the ingredients are there and all the flavours are. You want to make sure that the shortbread isn't too warm. You want it to cool down a little bit. So there we go. So that is the Nutella on the first layer. Done. Now time to put the second layer of shortbread on. Beautiful. Now just squish that down a bit, because obviously we do want to make sure that we've got enough space in the rest of our dish for a layer of caramel and the chocolate topping. So squish that nicely down. Now again, don't worry so much if it crumbles a little bit. That adds to all the beauty of your homemade Millionaire's shortbread. Excellent. Right, now that's done, we come back to our caramel. Now it should have thickened a little bit, but what we're going to do now is we're going to pour that layer over the shortbread, and then what we can do is put it to one side to let the caramel cool before we move on to the topping. Once it's cooled a little bit, say on the side somewhere, you can put it in the fridge just to shorten the time it takes to cool down, because we do want it to be nice and thick and sticky, so that when we put the chocolate on, it doesn't all mix in and sort of ruins it a little bit. So just slowly pour the caramel on, and you want to cover a nice layer. Now don't put it on too thick, because obviously we'll make it very sickly. So you may have some of your caramel mix left, but you do want to make sure that it covers all of your shortbread nicely. Right, and then just spread that out evenly. Don't worry if your shortbread doesn't quite meet all the edges of your dish and some of the caramel goes down. It's all part of it. Right, I think I could put a little bit more on there. There we go. That looks beautiful. So, yep, that is that. So, we can now put that to one side to cool, and then we can come back for the chocolate topping in a minute. So, the shortbread's been cooling in the fridge for about an hour now, so the caramel should be nice and set. Now time to put the chocolate on. You can put any chocolate you like on the top. I'm going to do a combination of both white and milk chocolate. So, first layer I'm going to put on is the white chocolate. So, it's about 200 grams, and I'm just going to basically pour that all over the top of the caramel, and spread it nice and evenly. Now we'll get it as neat as we can and get it over all of the top. You just want to spread it gently, and just be careful because obviously you don't want to dig up any of the caramel, but don't worry if you do, it's not going to be too much of an issue. Just be as careful as you can. Once it's spread over nice and evenly, it's time to get it back in the fridge to harden the chocolate. Now, because I'm using two different chocolates, let the first one set before I put the second one on, otherwise it will all mix together. If you just use the one, then you can just use the put it all on at once and then put it in the fridge, and then it'll be ready to go. So yeah, put this in the fridge and we'll come back when the final layer. So now time for the final layer. So here we go. So again, I've now got milk chocolate, but you can use any chocolate you want, and it's the same amount, 200 grams. Now if you're just using one amount of chocolate, then just combine it and make 400 grams. But yeah, so pour it over in exactly the same way, cover up all the top of it, and then that is pretty much ready to go. So once this is now been done, again, you just put it back in the fridge to harden the chocolate, and then once the chocolate's hardened, it's ready to go. So there you go, that is your Millionaire's shortbread, and that is the end of the video. Thank you all again so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Later.